All right, good evening. We have 7:01. Just keep filing in. You're all right sitting, and go ahead and find a seat. And if we need more chairs, just let us know. We're going to go ahead and get started here with the Pledge of Allegiance. I want to thank everybody for coming to this special board meeting. We're going to call to order. We'll do roll call up here at the table only.
Michelle Binkley.
Christy Van Meter.
Lauren Tice-Miller.
Sheila Magers.
Erica Price.
Sarah Sanders.
Rocky Buznitz.
Buck Reuter.
Kristen Fisher.
Hey, welcome. You made it. All right, I need a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Christy, second by Sarah.
Can I make a comment? Can we move the approval of the the bond approval projects to E, I think it is, to discussion items?
We have it on there to, we need to get that approved tonight. So we'll have plenty of discussion on that prior to voting. Do you want to make a motion?
That's my motion, to move E to discussion items.
All right, do we have a second? Okay, motion by Buck, second by Lauren, all in favor? 2-0, all opposed? 4-0, right? I said that right? Yeah.
Can we move it to the first discussion item since Tucker's here?
Yeah, we can move it to the first discussion item. So we need to move, we need a motion to move it to the first agenda item. First discussion item. No, she doesn't make the motion, we need a motion.
But you're suggesting that
Can you make it-
instead of moving it from an action item to the first discussion item.
You were trying to turn it to a discussion item, right?
Right, we're not moving it to a discussion item.
Oh, you're not?
Yeah, and the vote just
The
failed.
vote failed.
Oh, got it, you're good then.
We're good then? Okay. All right, we need a motion to approve the minutes of the May 4th, 2026 regular meeting.
We never took a vote.
We didn't take a vote. Okay, sorry, guys. All right, we need a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Christy, was second by Sarah, and then all in favor? 5. Approve. All opposed? 2 opposed. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to approval of the minutes of the May 4th, 2026 regular meeting. Motion by Erica? Second by Rocky? All in favor? 7-0. We're going to move on to communications, district staff retirement recognitions. So we'll have the board come up, that we're going to do the board in the center over here. Line up, and members will shake hands. Sheila's going to hand out the retirement dates. All right, we're going to go in alphabetical order tonight. So, Mr. Applehands. Mr. Applehands dedicated 37 years to education, spending his entire teaching career at Shawnee Heights. He earned his bachelor's degree from Kansas State University and his master's degree from Emporia State University. Throughout his career, he demonstrated a strong commitment to students and the school community. He will be remembered for his dedication and longevity in the district. In retirement, he looks forward to taking time to relax, especially enjoying his August away from the start of the school year, with more plans to come. Thank you, Mr. Applehands. Next is Mr. Belandrin. Is he here? All right, we'll go ahead and read this. Mr. Belandrin served Shawnee Heights for 15 years as a cook's helper, supporting food service operations across the district. In his role, he assisted with meal preparation, dishwashing, and deliveries to multiple locations, including Project Plus. He will be remembered for his hard work and dedication, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, when he helped provide meals for students under challenging circumstances. In retirement, he looks forward to traveling with his brother and plans to visit Colorado Springs next year and hopes of traveling to Canada and spending time supporting his family. All right, we'll move on to Mr. Dale Bonjour. All right. Mr. Bonjour served Shawnee Heights for 14 years as a bus driver. Throughout his time with the district, he played an important role in safely transporting students and supporting the daily operations of the school community. He will be remembered for his dedication and service to Shawnee Heights. In retirement, we wish him all the best in the years ahead. Mrs. Sarah Brunn. Mrs. Brunn served Shawnee Heights for 20 years in a variety of roles, including special education teacher, second grade teacher, instructional coach, and reading specialist. Throughout her career, she demonstrated a strong commitment to student learning and supported both students and staff across multiple areas of instruction. She will be remembered for her dedication to education and her positive impact on the school community. In retirement, she looks forward to traveling, spending time with her children and grandchildren, caring for her mother, and becoming more involved in her church. Thank you, Ms. Brunn. Ms. Jafon Burgart. Ms. Jafon Burgart served Shawnee Heights for 28 years as transportation coordinator. Throughout her career, she played an important role in supporting the district's transportation operations and ensuring students traveled safely each day. She will be remembered for her dedication, leadership, and service to the Shawnee Heights community. In retirement, we wish her all the best in the years ahead. Ms. Deborah Burton. Mrs. Burton served Shawnee Heights for 23 years, beginning as a paraprofessional at Tecumseh South Elementary and later as a literacy coach. Inspired to become a classroom teacher, she earned her education degree and went on to teach 3rd and 4th grade at Barrington Elementary. Throughout her career, she demonstrated a strong commitment to student learning and growth. She will be remembered for her dedication to students and her passion for education. In retirement, she looks forward to spending time with her grandchildren, traveling, relaxing, and possibly golfing with her husband. Ms. Deborah Cochran. Okay. Ms. Cochran served Shawnee Heights for 12 years as a food service cook's helper at the high school. Throughout her time with the district, she supported students and staff through her work in food service operations and daily meal preparation. She will be remembered for her dedication and service to the Shawnee Heights community. In retirement, we wish her all the best in the years ahead. Ms. Sharon Covert. Ms. Covert served in education for over 40 years, including 37 years at Tecumseh North Elementary as a physical education teacher. During her career, she created engaging, meaningful experiences for students, including memorable events like Field Day, and was dedicated to helping students build confidence and a love for physical activity. She will be remembered for her enthusiasm, commitment to students, and lasting impact on the Tecumseh North community. In retirement, she looks forward to spending time supporting her children and grandchildren and at their activities, continuing to stay active in the community and enjoying new opportunities. Thank you. Mrs. Kristen Denton. Mrs. Denton served Shawnee Heights for 12 years, working as a paraprofessional and later as a media aide at Barrington Elementary. During her time in the district, she supported students in the classroom and library, building meaningful connections and contributing to a positive learning environment. Prior to her work in education, she served 4 years in the U.S. Air Force and spent 20 years as a bookkeeper for the Kansas Contractors Association. She will be remembered for her dedication to students and her love of books. In retirement, she looks forward to gardening and spending time with her husband, family, and beloved dog, Jiff. Ms. Cheryl Duell, I don't think she's here. Ms. Duell served Shawnee Heights for 14 years in a variety of support roles, including clerical aide and teacher's aide at Tecumseh North Elementary, administrative assistant at the high school, and high school bookkeeper. Throughout her career, she supported students, staff, and daily school operations in many capacities across the district. She will be remembered for her dedication, flexibility, and service to the Shawnee Heights community. In retirement, we wish her all the best in the years ahead. Ms. Stephanie Garrett, did I say that right? Ms. Garrett served Shawnee Heights for 26 years in both transportation and food service roles. She began her career as a substitute bus driver before becoming a full-time driver, later serving as a food service cook's helper before returning to bus driving to finish her time with the district. Throughout her career, she supported students and families in many ways and demonstrated a strong commitment to the Shawnee Heights community. She will be remembered for her dedication and years of service to the district. In retirement, we wish her all the best in the years ahead. Mr. Matt Hirsch. Mr. Hirsch served Shawnee Heights for 35 years in a variety of roles, including mathematics teacher, associate principal, HR director, and associate superintendent, as well as serving as interim superintendent during the COVID-19 pandemic. Throughout his career, he played a key role in advancing district initiatives, including the implementation of one-to-one technology for students and successfully supporting a major bond election to enhance district facilities. He will be remembered for his steady leadership, commitment to students and staff, and dedication to the Shawnee Heights community. In retirement, he looks forward to spending more time with his wife and 3 children, working on projects at home, and continuing to serve his community. Thank you, Mr. Hirsch. Ms. Deborah Mack. Okay. Ms. Mack served Shawnee Heights for 10 years in the district's food service department. She began as a cook's helper at the high school before becoming the food service department head, where she supported daily meal operations for students for 7 years. She will be remembered for her dedication and service to the Shawnee Heights community. In retirement, we wish her all the best in the years ahead. Ms. Vicki Meck. Mrs. Meck served Shawnee Heights for 22 years as a bus driver. Throughout her career, she played an important role in safely transporting students and supporting the daily operations of the district. She will be remembered for her dedication and years of service to the Shawnee Heights community. In retirement, we wish her all the best in the years ahead. Thank you. Ms. Shauna Owens. Mrs. Owens served Shawnee Heights for 30 years and as an administrative assistant at the high school, supporting students, staff, and families throughout her career. She began her time at the 910 building and continued in the main high school office after the buildings were unified, playing an important role in the daily operations of the school. She will be remembered for her dedication to the Shawnee Heights community and the pride she takes in her family's connection to the district, including her children and soon-to-be graduating grandchildren. In retirement, she looks forward to spending time with her family and grandchildren, as well as enjoying life in California near the beach, while always remaining a proud T-Bird. Rose Riberty. Mrs. Riberty served Shawnee Heights for 10 years as a food service cook's helper at Tecumseh South Elementary. Throughout that time, they supported students and staff through their work in the daily meal preparation and food service operations. She will be remembered for her dedication and service to the Shawnee Heights community in retirement. We wish her all the best in the years ahead. Thank you, Rose. Jory Schreiber? Not here? Did I say it right, Schreiber? Schreiber, sorry about that. Mrs. Schreiber served Shawnee Heights for 33 years as an administrative specialist in transportation. Throughout her career, she supported students, staff, and daily school operations through her dedication and organizational leadership. She will be remembered for her commitment and years of service to the Shawnee Heights community. In her retirement, we wish her all the best in the years ahead. Jody Stearns. Not here there? Okay. Mrs. Stearns served Shawnee Heights for 15 years, first as a baker and later as the manager at Shawnee Heights Elementary. During her time in the district, she played an important role in supporting students and staff through her work in food service operations. Prior to joining Shawnee Heights, she spent 17 years at Stormont Vale in food service leadership roles and also worked in school nutrition programs at Holy Name and St. Matthews. She will be remembered for her dedication and care in serving the school community. In retirement, she looks forward to spending more time with her family. Thank you, Ms. Stearns. Mr. Eric Steele. Mr. Steele served in education for over 30 years, including the past 14 years as an assistant principal at Shawnee Heights High School. His career also included roles as a teacher and coach, as well as principal at multiple schools, where he supported student learning and school leadership. He will be remembered for his dedication to education and his commitment to students and staff throughout his career. In his retirement, he looks forward to spending time with his grandchildren and continuing work on his farm. Thank you. Mr. Bob Wells. Mr. Wells served Shawnee Heights for nearly 40 years. Dedicating his career as a science teacher and coach, he taught a range of courses, including physical science, earth science, and chemistry, and was instrumental in developing advanced chemistry opportunities for students. In addition to the classroom, he coached multiple sports, including volleyball, basketball, and track, and led the girls' basketball program while also supporting student-athlete development through a long-running summer weights program. He will be remembered for his commitment to students, both in academics and athletics, and for the lasting impact he made on the Shawnee Heights community. In retirement, he looks forward to spending more time with his wife, children, and grandchildren, traveling and enjoying new opportunities and interests. Thank you. Mr. Werner. Take your time. Mr. Werner served in education for 27 years, including 13 years at Shawnee Heights, where he made a positive impact on students and the school community. Prior to his career in education, he worked in journalism before earning his teaching certification and transitioning into the classroom. In addition to teaching, he dedicated 25 years to coaching baseball and football. He will be remembered for his commitment to students and his contributions both in the classroom and in athletics. In retirement, he looks forward to relaxing, traveling, and spending time with his grandchildren. Thank you.
Mr. Ed West. Mr. West has served Shawnee Heights for 11 years as the high school principal. Prior to his time at Shawnee Heights, he brought extensive leadership experience from several schools, serving as a principal, assistant principal, and mathematics teacher throughout his career in education. He will be remembered for his commitment to his students, staff, and the Shawnee Heights community. This fall, he will return to the classroom as a mathematics teacher at Hayden High School, where he looks forward to applying the lessons and experiences gained during his school leadership.
Ms. Kelly Wingerson. Okay. Ms. Wingerson served Shawnee Heights for 19 years at Tecumseh North Elementary in several roles, including paraprofessional, teacher aide, and literacy tutor. Throughout her career, she supported students in the classroom and helped foster student learning and growth. She will be remembered for her dedication and service to the Tecumseh North community. In retirement, we wish her all the best in the years to come. Thank you from the school board, and we wish you all happy and wonderful retirements. Thank you for all of your service. All right, we're going to move on to the December 1st, 2025. Is that right? Yeah. All right, 2025 special education headcount.
On December 1. So whereas our general student count is on September 20th, the special education student count is on December 1. So while the count was done on September 1, it is not finalized until later in the year, which I believe was April 24th of this year, by the state. So that's what the lag is there. But these numbers are as of December 1, 2025. The first graph you have are the total number of students with IEPs across 15 years. And you can see that in 2010, we had 566 students. And this year, on December 1, we had 771. This does include gifted students. The chart then that you have underneath are the exceptionalities and by grade level. And I'm just going to point out a couple things on this graph. First of all, some definitions. DD, if you see that in the third column, DD means developmental delay, and those students are aged 3 through 8, and they are students who we identify early as having a delay, but we don't know exactly where that delay is coming from, whether it's lack of exposure to pre-academics, intellectual ability doesn't become stable until age 8. So there are a variety of reasons there, and we're hoping that by providing them some intervention that we make some gains, and that then we don't have to identify them as a student with a disability at a later date. So that's what a developmental delay is. And then SL is speech and language. There are two ways to get speech and language services in the district or in the state. One is to have an IEP that is specifically for speech and/or language. The second way to receive those services is as a supplement to another type of service. So you might have a learning disability, but you also receive speech and language services. The numbers that are in that column under SL, total is 86. Those students are only students that have, or are students that have only speech and language services. So that isn't the total number of students we have that receive speech and language, but they're the ones who are primarily speech language students. So if you look at some of these numbers, you can see our highest category or exceptionality is developmental delay, which is 130 students in the district, learning disabilities, which is 203, and OH is other health impaired. And there are a lot of things that fall under other health impaired, but primarily you might think of that as students with attention deficit disorder or other disabilities that impact their stability or their ability to sustain attention and those kinds of things. So it's kind of a catch-all, but it does separate out between the other exceptionalities. So you might find some other things under there. I'm trying to think of some examples. But ADD, or attention deficit disorder, is one of the main ones that falls under OHI. Again, the total is 771. We have 110 gifted students. All right. If you take the gifted students out, and you just want to look at the number of students with disabilities in our district, it is 661 students. And overall, we're up 24 students, 23 of which are students with disabilities. So that makes sense. If you have 109 students last year, we have 110 gifted students this year. But for a total of 771, 661 of those students have disabilities. If you turn to the next page, you'll see a 4-year comparison in each of the areas of exceptionality. And our largest increase is in the area of the learning disabilities. Everything else, relatively speaking, there's not a large increase or decrease. But in that area of students with learning disabilities, that is up by 13 students. Some interesting information when you look at these numbers. As of December 1, we had 77 new students from the beginning of school to December 1 with exceptionalities. 27 of those students were students that we identified as having an exceptionality. 13 out of those 27 were speech language only students, okay? 50 of the students, the newly identified students, were actually move-in students, students from other districts who moved into our attendance area that had IEPs already. 6 out of those 50 were speech and language only students. And then 32 out of the 50 had 2 or more services. So they may be a student with a learning disability and receive services, but also have speech and language, or they may have OT or PT, but they have 2 or more services. And 21 of those 32 students have 3 or more services. So when you look at our increases, we are receiving a lot of students with disabilities compared to the students that we are identifying. And again, that is between the beginning of school and December 1, so it doesn't encompass the whole year. But I'd like for you to see where our numbers are increasing at and why, and I like to know why that is. And so that gives you a little bit more information on how our numbers are increasing and where we are identifying those students. The only other thing I wanted to bring your attention to is when you do look at that graph on the front page, which gives you the total number of students, you will see that we had quite a nice increase there around COVID. And that's where you get that steep incline there. So I think that, COVID was an interesting time for everybody, and I think obviously our students struggled in the learning process. And I think also our kiddos at home weren't being exposed to as much speech and language and different things that they would get otherwise out in the community and being around their peers. So we did see a large increase around that time. All right. Do you have any questions for me?
So as you start the school year, you're planning for capacity for serving X number of students, and now the school year starts and you're serving, 50 to 70 more. How do you adjust? Are you able to hire, or do you make new hires during the middle of the school year, or do you just alter the services you're providing, shorten the lengths of things?
Sure. So one nice thing about those numbers is because they're dispersed over 6 schools, right? So we're not looking at those numbers, the complete 70 students in one building. So the way that we try to staff adequately ahead of time, but it's always a changing game once enrollment starts. So really those are paraprofessionals that we tend not to move around, but we're usually adding, or because of attrition in this building, we're able to then add more positions here. But sometimes they're completely new positions because we've got more students than we anticipated. If they were in one building, we'd be hiring additional teachers, obviously, but because they're dispersed between all 6, it does allow us to do that with paraprofessionals, but we don't cut back on the IEPs.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
We'll move on to comments and concerns from patrons. I believe we have 1, 2. We have 2. This is an opportunity for our district patrons to address either topics directly relevant to the business of the district or items on the current board agenda. All comments must be directed to the board or the president of the board or presiding officer. Individuals will be given 3 minutes to present ideas, opinions, and/or concerns. All right. Matt Stockdale.
So I'm just here to let the board know how the boys tennis team did. I came back in October to let you guys know how the girls tennis team did. First of all, the tennis program is getting left in some great hands. Dave Thielen is actually going to be taking over boys tennis, and we have a Washburn grad who's taking over girls tennis. We had 17 boys on the team this year. We got almost a state. We lost in just the last game. All 17 boys actually lettered tonight. And some of them had been on the team for 3 years and not lettered those past two, but with the hard work and determination, they got their letter this year. So I just wanted to let the board know on how the tennis team did and what it would feel like if we actually had a feeder program like some of the 501 schools did. So it would help out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jason Schultz.
Good evening again. In a little bit, you all will start talking about board policies for next year. One of the more interesting ones has been dragged upon you by the lovely Kansas State Legislature, talking about these things for students. Having read the legislation many times, it's a wonderful idea. It's a beautiful idea. And as somebody who's in education, has been working with education for a long time, yes, it makes a lot of sense. Question is, why did the state legislature decide that they were going to mandate, not make law themselves, to make it illegal for students to have cell phones in the classroom? But why did the legislature mandate that the school districts will pass policy mandating such things? Now, I have sent emails, I've tried communicating with several different state legislators. I haven't heard back from a single one. And that really makes me wonder if the governor put her name on this piece of paper saying, we are working towards children's mental health by reducing their screen time, why won't you come out and answer a simple question about why you didn't take the initiative and make it state law instead of dump the burden on the school districts? I understand that as a school board, there's not a whole heck of a lot y'all can do about it. You play the hand that you're dealt. But it might be interesting for some of you to see about asking that question up the chain and see what comes back down the line. I do not envy your job. I've sat in those chairs before. It takes a lot of guts to do it, and I thank you guys for your time and service to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. We're going to move on to action items, business by consent. We need a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Rocky, second by Erica. All in favor? 7-0. Move on to approve Kansas Gas Utility relocation proposal. Mr. Tucker. Mr. Tucker. I did that last time. Mr. Petticord.
Yeah, I get both. So I'm up here for the next 4, so I'm just going to bring everything up here. So last time we came here for the approval of the early site utility package, and we mentioned that there was going to be some district portion funds for relocating utilities, and these are all utilities that are in an easement. Is that me? Good grief, I'm glad that's not me. The utilities are in an easement that has, like if they're in the easement, then we have to pay for them to be moved, and so they have to be moved. So that's what these next 2 are about. So these are pricing from your utility providers. We really don't have any options, and they're governed by their own rules.
Do we have any questions? Christy?
Can I come look? I don't have what you have right now. That's going on the south side of the school.
Any other questions? All right, we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Sarah,
Second.
second by Buck. All in favor? 7-0. Okay, we'll move on to approve Evergy utility relocation proposal.
This is the same thing.
Any other questions?
There were 3, you already approved AT&T, so you've done this, actually this is your 3rd one.
Do we need any more explanation, further explanation? All right, do we have a motion? Motion by Christie,
Second.
second by Buck, all in favor? 7-0. And then we have approved parking lot bid package amendment B.
Yeah, so Jake with Kendall is here. He was here last time. We told you guys that we were bidding this out, and we did bid it out to the market. And the reason why we weren't sure if we were going to approve this or not is based on what's going on with the global market, on whether or not this would make sense. And that we were going to just wait and see what the numbers were. We actually got some additional requirements on depth of subgrade prep, which is, it's good for you guys want to do it right. But the numbers actually came back good, and we got good bids on all the earthwork and the asphalt and the subgrade prep. So we actually think it makes sense to go ahead and get started on this. This still leaves our south parking lot at the high school, because we don't want to do it all because you won't have access, you know, be tearing too much up in front of the school. But I think this is a good idea, similar to the lines of like what we got done with the playgrounds and the turf, in that, like, if it's in budget and we're getting what we need, we should just keep moving forward and keep spending the money, so. And then Jake's here for any questions that you guys might have.
So just for clarification, the parking lots that you're going to be working on will not be used or run over during construction. These are parking lots that will not be used by construction equipment, correct?
Correct, so there's like the infill of the parking lot area over at the middle school. That's gonna be, by the time the gym's done, that's when you guys will be using it. Barryton is clear out to the east. It's not gonna be anywhere near construction. And then the north parking lot, we've already coordinated, because you've already approved the HVAC work, and so we've already coordinated with them on, for like the staging and like crane, to make sure that we're not putting a crane on brand new asphalt.
Okay. Any questions?
Can you talk to, so in reading it, that we're subject to oil prices.
Yep.
Can you talk to that? And is that directly in the contract? I mean, I kind of read that it's there, but is it stated like what, that we're setting that on? Is it like a index or something?
It's sit on the AC, like liquid oil pricing, basically, listed by the state. And the calculation formula is also state-driven. So I'm more than willing to shoot you over the state website where that information can be found. You know, I actually ran the numbers yesterday on how the formula works, and it all makes pretty good sense to me. But yeah, it's pretty typical for asphalt subcontractors to do that, especially in a market like this.
Okay.
It's been going on since 2008, but
Yep.
I haven't seen an asphalt bid that wasn't tied to an index,
Sure.
like 18 years.
Yeah, it just comes to, it
Yeah.
gets scary when we're talking about current oil prices. So
And that's
I'm
why-
comfortable as long as it's tied to an index and it's not,
It
it's
is tied
not,
to an
An
index.
index.
it's not just someone's determination that oil was more expensive
We'll
than what
probably
we
have
bid
to do
it.
that with steel at some point, with what's going on right now. So we have to take those approaches on everything that we buy. The good thing is if you guys are approving tonight, it's like a month away for like starting to buy stuff. So I think that we're in as good a position. Like if we were not gonna do this asphalt until next summer, I'd probably
That
be
would
saying
concern
like,
me.
let's wait. But because we're bidding it now and doing it tomorrow, let's do it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Buck, second by Kristen. All in favor? 7-0. All right, Ms. Meggers and Mr. Petticord, approve bond purchase approval process.
Okay, I'll talk about this and Tucker can tag in because he's done this in a number of districts. But what we're looking at moving forward, we're going to have some things that pop up once construction starts. Anything that we can bring back to the board first and stay with our normal order of approval, we will. We are not planning to bypass board approval. We were just looking for a formalized, being really clear way of doing this after doing a bunch of research with other districts of if something pops up that is an unexpected item and it's going to be weeks out and hold things up, that the facility committee could give approval and we could sign that and then put it on the next board agenda. We wouldn't do things like this parking lot package or big items or anything that we could do on a standard agenda. What we found, Sarah and I both called other districts and checked around, And there wasn't just one way of doing it. They were running it through their board, but they didn't have a formal approval like this first. We just were trying to do that so it was on the up and up, and we were being really transparent about it. So Tucker may want to add on a little bit more about this.
No, I don't, I'd say the only thing is whatever policy that we end up with is nobody's going to be spending money or making decisions on Shawnee Heights dollars without Shawnee Heights leadership being aware of what's going on, right? Regardless of what process that we come up with. So like, I'm not asking for us to be able to just make decisions in a vacuum. I just think that there is times where speed of making a decision makes a big difference on dollars. And I thought it was good for us to have this discussion and propose something that was similar to what we've done in other districts, because we're new to this with you guys, right? Like we're just getting into this. This is our second GMP that we have 5 more to go. But there's gonna be 100 other vendors that we have to approve, and some of them are gonna have times of the essence type stamps on them. And it could be we're not gonna get something in time, or the costs are gonna go up. So I'm open I have answers to, open for discussion on this and to see what you guys think and what you're comfortable with.
Is there a way to add wording in there in the event that, in the timely manner? The way I read this is just open-ended. Could we add wording that said in the event that they needed a quicker response than whatever? I don't know what the wording would be.
Yeah.
You're saying what Sheila said, if it's something that won't delay things by coming through the normal process, we'll follow the normal process.
Right.
But
But it's not what this says. This says they can do anything. So if time is of the essence and they can't wait 2 weeks, I think there needs to be wording in here that says that. Not saying that I think they're going to go spend all this money, but again, I feel more comfortable if we had something in there that stated this was only to be used in a time-sensitive situation. Right.
Yes. If we would add on when needed to avoid delays and,
I'm not good with the wording, just the idea.
While we're talking about the wording, am I reading that there might be a typo in it already? It says in that first paragraph that that the Business and Finance Director to execute contracts on behalf of Shawnee Heights USD 450 exceeding 20,000 for work, et cetera. And then the second statement says, all contracts and proposals for work exceeding 20,000 shall be presented to the Board of Education for approval at the next regular board meeting. So if you're approving them if they're exceeding, but then we're also going to present them if they're exceeding?
yes, they will still come, they will go on, it's a flipping the order.
Got it.
Normally, we take them to the board first and get approval. We are not going to bypass that. We still want them to come to the board. We would just be able to move forward if some emergency came up or something that was going to cost more or create a significant delay.
So they would just be reported back as informational line items essentially to the board. Action had already been taken.
Yeah, in other projects, it would be like the facility committee approves something, and then it ends up on consent agenda.
Sure. I think the part that I'm most uncomfortable with, just in terms of board process, and this is kind of for us, is that as someone who doesn't sit on the facilities committee, I have no idea what's happening in those meetings. I don't see summary reports from those meetings. I don't hear anything that's happening there, so I would feel very uncomfortable with this process, partly for that reason. I don't know if I am the only one that shares that concern, but I think it sort of feels like we were each elected to be here to answer to the people who put us here, and I feel like that's a huge blind spot that I'm uncomfortable with. I understand the necessary part of the process, but I would like to see us improve our internal communications in a way that would allow everybody to feel like they had the information they needed.
Let me add to that a little bit. The last time the facility committee met was before the May 4th or 5th board meeting, and everything that was discussed, Tucker shared at the board meeting. So in his updates, you're hearing most of that. I can type something separate, but you got it faster coming from Tucker that night, if that helps.
I reiterate what she's saying. I mean, it would be nice to have some updates from our board staff that's at those meetings, because we have no vision into that, and it could be just your guys seeing it different than what they're seeing it. So it'd be nice to have that. But to this, is there any situation currently that we've been raised prices or we're going to miss?
We were really close on playground equipment, because the issue arrives is that you tell everybody like, hey, we have, 2 months to make our selections, our decision, get the budgeting back, and get a PO released in order to make sure that the lead times match up with an end day schedule. And everybody thinks there's always plenty of time to decide what piece of equipment or what color their furniture is or whatever it is. And it's just, the case of it is when somebody's buying something for the one time that they ever get to do it, it's hard for them to make those decisions as quickly as you need them to.
I'm also not uncomfortable with this because it takes away our authority to review these things ahead of time. But also, I don't, we meet every 2 weeks. Most boards across the state meet maybe once a month. So there's nothing that I could see coming up in this process that we couldn't meet 2 weeks. And if there is, let's just call a special meeting and then we can quickly discuss it over a Zoom call. I just don't see the need to circumvent our controls on reviewing anything over 20,000.
I would ask, if we have those meetings, could we potentially maybe start taking meeting notes and then minutes, I guess, and distribute those, as soon as possible after that? Because I think it would be just fair to everybody here at the table that distribute that information out so they have visibility into what was discussed and talked about. I would understand where you're coming from, and I support it just for the fact that if there's something on the critical path that is, and if there's something uncomfortable with the board about this, I would say maybe we set a threshold or a dollar limit for that. But I would be, I guess, a little uncomfortable having to micromanage something that's on the critical path that is, let's say a $15,000 item or something that might delay something a week, and then have to do that tomorrow, and then have to do that again 2 days from now or something like that. So, if we're not comfortable with, I guess, the language here, maybe we could put a dollar amount threshold where if it exceeds it, then we call a special meeting or something like that. So that's my feedback or thought.
Yeah, and I'm totally open to whatever makes you guys comfortable, because we are just now getting into this, and I don't want to ask you to do something that makes you uncomfortable. I just want you to know that if I call and say, hey, steel pricing is going up $28,000 a day, like that just happened on another project over in Lawrence, and we were getting told $28,000 a day that you don't approve it. Well, we all better get on the phone.
So I actually appreciate Sarah's example about something like an Evergy line or a utility or something like that. And in the scope of large-scale construction like this, $20,000 doesn't go very far. So I tend to agree, sort of, Sarah, with you about the imminency of something like that, and Rocky with you about the threshold. I also appreciate Christie's note about the time is of the essence-ness of it. I think I would like to not feel like I'm just, to your point, totally out of the loop and things are just happening around me, but I think there are going to be things that come up like that are very valid, where we aren't going to be able to get a quorum of 4 of us on the line. Something's been, a communication line's been hit and everybody's without communication. We need to be able to just do that. So I do hear that, and I think there's validity to that. I just don't know that this language is robust enough to feel like we aren't just totally taking our hands off the wheels. So I appreciate the discussion.
I have a question. How do we regularly handle emergencies? I mean, we've had pipes burst and flooding and things that required immediate action. How did we handle those?
We can legally go ahead and do it, and then we did with Barryton, and then we just informed the board, and we had it on the very next board meeting, but we couldn't wait to get a company in to start working on it. So, these could be lots of emergencies. We're trying to do it more on the up and up. We didn't have language from another district. We came up with that, so we're happy to adjust it. I don't know, we couldn't turn up a district that had done this as formally, so.
So much like the other concerns that have already been expressed, I am also very uncomfortable with this. I've been here long enough to know that we can get a quorum together in rather quick time frame if we need to for a special meeting. There is a way to sign a waiver to also be able to bring us together in less than the 2 days requirement, so we could like immediately meet if we needed to. We have virtual options, we can meet in person, whatever. So I am reluctant to accept that. The other, and probably the biggest objection that I have, is the fact that the facility committee is not a board-appointed committee. We did not take a vote to put board members onto that committee. While board members do serve on it, it's not a board-appointed committee. At least that's how it has been presented to me. And so I still question how this facility committee exists and functions as it is, and would very much be in support of publishing the dates that they meet, having the minutes provided to us, and if we even needed to have, like at this point, I don't even know how frequently the facility committee meets, and so if we need to have some kind of standing meeting following one of those facility committee meetings where you guys roll from one to the other. I also have a lot of concerns over the fact still that there are 3 board members on there and it only takes a 4th for a quorum. So really, I have a lot of heartburn just over the existence of that committee, and then essentially turning over 7 board members' work to 3 of them to then sign off on these projects, I'm not okay with.
So in the wording, can we put something in there that if we put a feeler out, hey, we need to have a special meeting, we're signing this waiver, and we cannot get a quorum. So we should, if we did this where we asked for like an emergency board meeting, we had the waiver signed, and we cannot get a quorum, then I can see using the emergency, like the facility committee in that case could sign off. But I like the idea of immediately following our facility committee meeting that we have.
But this doesn't even say the facility committee signs off on it. It says the superintendent or
Or,
business.
I'm sorry,
Subject to
superintendent,
approval by the facility committee.
right. So having like a standing board meeting after that via Zoom or whatever would make sense to me too, because that way we do have a quorum and it is going to get approved as fast as you're going to need it approved.
Yeah.
That would be my suggestion, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather us publish
I think we all
those
feel
dates.
better about, I understand the urgency, but I also want all of us involved in that decision.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little uncomfortable I want to be able to, I want everyone to trust me enough to just say, hey, let's do it, but that's not how this works. And so I do think we need to have checks and balances, but I also know we as a board have to be ready to be able to be available is the only thing, to be ready to hop on that Zoom for 10, 15 minutes when that time comes. And then in the case that we cannot get a quorum, then we move to get something signed, but only in the case we cannot get a quorum right after one of those meetings.
Is there any risk to that waiver process? Like, is there any risk that we should be aware of on that, that if we're using that, hopefully we're not coming up with lots of emergent situations or things that are needing this process, but if we are regularly having to use that waiver, does that cause us any heartburn?
I think the better route would be to, if we've already planned out when the facility committee meetings are, then we can just schedule
A
Zoom meeting, and we then, as the board, would then approve the scheduled meetings following those facility committees, so then they would be published and known. I just don't remember, I think you can even, we just postponed
right.
yesterday.
The-
So
Yeah.
if it's a standing meeting, it's different than if it's a special meeting.
So if they weren't needed, we could theoretically cancel those as well, or we would just all
Well-
hop on and,
Yeah.
It'd be, we can cancel them if there's nothing to approve.
right?
They
That
would
was-
just be ready to go.
Sure. Just,
But we would have to know, we wouldn't know till last minute either if it's.
You got to be
canceled.
ready to hop on.
So.
Do you want to say something?
Yeah, the facility committee's meetings are not standing because.
They're not, no.
No, and the reason why they're not is because they're greatly tailored to changes in the schedule that happen from both the design team, the bidding market, the day of the bids, how long it takes to put it together, how good the information is that we get back. And so we try to plan out we try to give the people on the facility committee at every job as much time as we can ahead of time, but sometimes you'll get an email from me that's like, hey, we think we're gonna meet on this date, depending on how bid date goes and what we think we need to do. And so like the facility committees, like sometimes we don't wanna have a facility committee meeting every month, because sometimes we'd be getting together and be like, we don't have anything to talk about. We have those for updates at design milestones and when we're getting ready to ask for money. And we didn't even have time to have one on parking lots because they just took bids on Tuesday. So that's why but it's parking lots, so we can come have this open discussion. But we normally would have had a facility committee for any time we're gonna come here ask for approval. That's normally what we do, because we usually bring the information from the facility committee that we're asking for decisions on here. The other stuff that happens in the facility committee meeting is like, what color, like, what kind of doors do you want? Or, you know, like.
So I'm hoping that this isn't happening so regularly that we're we're online
No.
every day. I don't think that's going to be a problem. But as soon as you can, and this
Yeah.
helps all of us, is as soon as you can get us on a calendar for that committee meeting,
Yeah.
then we'll schedule a meeting to follow
What I
later
can-
that day.
And what I'll continue to do with you guys is just communicate. If I see something coming, like we're having this discussion because I'm like, hey, we tried to get a change order approved that was like $8,000, and we're like, that was kind of difficult and it really shouldn't be, so maybe we should have this conversation, right? And so like, I just wanted everybody to be comfortable, and I think I need to communicate with you when something's coming up, and then you guys can have a discussion on how you want to get there so that you're not giving up control.
And I'll
Because
say,
that's not what we're asking.
we as a board have been pretty good about checking emails and getting back. Everybody's really fast about it.
Yeah.
So I think we're all pretty good at
I mean, text is better.
Text is way better. But if I sent, or someone says, hey, check your email, I mean, you guys are going to do it pretty quickly. So I have greatly appreciated that. So,
I wanted to have this discussion before we're having a $28,000 a day steel issue.
We appreciate
Like,
it.
now we know that you guys know what I'm worried about and why. If I start ringing the bell, that's what you pay me to do, then it's time to fly.
so as far as amending the wording, do you want to amend the wording right now and approve it? Or how do you, we don't really have to
We can
have
work
it
on
written, just work on it?
If you want something official in writing, we could work on adding that and look at it the next time.
Is that
the
enough time?
easiest? If not.
I mean,
we'll
I guess
special
what
board
we
meeting.
have
There's
we have an
nothing major right
understanding.
now. We're putting stuff in front of you. There's just gonna be a lot more. Like,
Sure.
we've done like 5 or 6. There's gonna be like hundreds.
I would like to make a motion to table this until further notice.
Okay, we need a second?
Second?
Motion by Lauren, second by Christie, all in favor? 7-0, 7-0. All right, we'll get that tabled and then see if we can get that figured out.
Thank you for
Yep.
having the discussion. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll move on to approve KASB policy updates. Ms. Meggers.
These are the two policies we looked at last time. They both stem from House Bill 2299. The first one is on staff-student communication. They have to use a district-approved tool. And the second one is the use of student electronic devices during the school day, that they need to be powered off and stored away from the student. And these are the exact same two. The second one is a brand-new policy, the electronic device one. The first one is just some updates and additions to an existing policy on communication. So we would recommend approval. I'm happy to answer any questions on it.
Any questions?
So this is just the overall arching board policy. This isn't like how we're going to do it in each school, right? Like, I mean, that'll drive some of from what this comes from, but at least it's not like all that.
This is the overarching policy that comes from KASB and has gone through their attorneys. Each building or each grade level, each building is doing it in their handbook and spelling out what that looks like for their age group or their building.
Okay. And I had one question on it. I see, and I think this is in the law, so just help point me if I'm but it says that like no employee is requiring a student to do any social media platform or any assignment or extracurricular activity. So that's in the law that says it that way,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Okay. Seems silly, but, okay. Thank you.
It'll likely come as no surprise, but I will be voting against this policy. I believe it is a direct overstep of our constitutional duty as locally elected boards.
Anybody else? I agree, but I will be voting. All right, need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Sarah, second by Erica. All in favor? 5 approve, all opposed? 2-0. All right, we'll, I'm sorry? 5-2, 2-5, 2-5. 5-2.
5-2.
5 approved, 2 opposed. Okay. Moving on. Approve elementary handbooks. Ms. Meggers.
Okay. Attached are the 4 different elementary handbooks. The handbooks themselves are identical. They work together to go through these and update. They're just unique, and there are 4 different ones because they're 4 different buildings, and they have their own names and their own phone numbers and things specific to their building. But the actual information in them is identical. I've sent a really detailed, we tried to be really clear on what changed from last year, and the only things that changed, the big change is that we updated the electronic device policy to line up with House Bill 2299, and some things specific about that. This is what Buck was asking about. What does it look like at the buildings? The middle school and the high school are still working to finalize theirs and get some input from site councils. They will have those at the next meeting. But the big things that are in that piece, that they have to turn it off, it has to be securely stored. We define the school day or when the phones need to be put away, and what the consequence is. It says device will be confiscated. So we outlined some of those things a little clearer because of that bill. And then there are a few other changes, some little different wording on the bus procedures that they got from transportation, and removed the head lice section, updated parent communication to reflect Parent Square, and a little bit different wording on holiday parties. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but those were the changes that they came up with.
I have
Yes,
questions on the bus.
yes.
Why did we take out so much and put so little?
I'm going to defer to Mike because that came from his department. Do you want to talk about those? Do you have those?
I think what we decided was that those things that we changed were similar, and they were trying to do a more simplified kind of version of that so that they wouldn't get lost. Those rules wouldn't get lost.
Also, I think, are they posted on the buses? They tried to put them in simpler terms for students. Were they posted?
Well, so my request was to leave everything the same, but put our expectations for behavior, which we have on the buses, on top of that as paying fine. I'm just assuming that.
I just feel like it's more gray area now than what it was. But
I think the meaning, the intention was just to simplify them for students, but I'll let Mike elaborate.
Yeah, so I believe the only thing that we added to this, everything is the same as it was last year, correct? You just updated that one section. Okay. And the reason is because after we talked about it, it looked there's a lot of information in there. And as we field complaints about, parent concerns or student behavior complaints or bus write-ups or whatever, we just wanted the rule section to grab people's attention so that the parents knew what our expectations were. So if they glossed over a lot of small print, we wanted them to see our expectations as something that they would read.
I will just say that I think we probably need to put the no glass containers, animals or pets are allowed on the bus back in there somewhere, because I could just see somebody saying, well, it's not in there, I'm going to take my pet with me on the bus.
I mean, I could say the same thing about don't throw anything out the bus windows, or engaging the safety of others committing acts of I mean, there's quite a few that are in here that I could see a parent saying, well, that's not in your rule. I just feel like it was pretty self-explanatory what the rules were. I get the simplifying it if you're putting it on a bus or something, but that was my biggest concern, is having a parent say, well, it didn't say they couldn't do that.
Any other concerns? All right, we need a motion to approve. Motion by Erica. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Erica, second by Rocky. All in favor? 3. All opposed? 3. 1 abstention. Motion does not pass. All right, approve Edgenuity license renewal. You're okay.
Good evening. 'Tis the season to renew some licenses. So before you is the Edgenuity renewal. And just to remind the board, Edgenuity is a learning software that we use at Shawnee Heights for credit recovery. Students that need to make up a class or didn't complete a class, they get online, they take that class. It's usually supervised here on campus, so they go into a classroom, they're all working on different classes at the same time. A teacher is there to provide support, answer questions, and supervise that. We also will be utilizing this software for our Project Plus as needed there. So they are modernizing this a little bit and modernizing the videos and making those a little more engaging for kids, so we're excited about that. And we are requesting your approval. It's $26,410. And this will be utilized at the high school.
Forgive my ignorance, but this is the first time I've seen this come across. Is there a, like, cost per course fee or anything like that that we pay for students who enroll additionally, or this is just a blanket?
Blanket site license, so we can put
Super.
as many kids in there. So we utilize it for summer school a lot. And then there'll be a few kids that'll need additional opportunities to take financial literacy, and they'll get that, and then also just credit recovery.
Super, thanks.
I move approval.
I'll second.
Motion by Lauren, second by Kristen. All in favor? 7-0. We'll move on to approve science curriculum maps. Ms. Bell?
Yes, sorry.
I skipped yearbooks. I apologize. Approve bid and contract for high school yearbook.
Okay, I was prepared for that one. All right. Because our high school yearbook is over $20,000, every 5 or 6 years, we send that out to a bid. And this year, it is time to renew that. So we took it out for bid. We received 2 vendors out of the 3 that we personally sent that out to. We also posted on the website for any other vendor to see it. But Jostin submitted a bid, and so did Walsworth. Our current high school yearbook is currently published by Walsworth, and so the bid process is built in 3 sections. The first section is what they call the base price. This is the guaranteed every book can be built for this price. The second section is how much do each of the add-ons cost? So if they want foil on the cover, they want these certain types of edges on their pages, any of those specialty items that make the book unique and stand out for the school year, how much do those cost per company? That's section 2. And then section 3 is about professional development, not only for our journalism teacher, but our
our journalism staff so that they get to learn. And so you'll see that each section was 80 points, and it's a really long document of a lot of questions. But there's a rubric, and you can see that the Jostens book, just from the base price, was $55.33. Walsworth came in at $40. And their estimated cost for the minimum of the book without the add-ons yet. And that also is based on books sold. We shoot for 700. If they sell 800 books, the price of the book goes up. I mean, we have to pay more because we are producing more books. So that is a relative term there. But that's how all of this service is bid out, is by a base price. At the end of the day, Walsworth won the bid by earning 228 points versus Jostens earned 161 for the high school. So based on the yearbook staff goals to learn advanced journalism techniques and produce a highly quality book, our recommendation is to enter into a 6-year contract with Walsworth Publishing for our Shawnee Heights High School yearbook. Part of that bid process is asking them how much they will increase their prices over the next 6 years. And it made sense to go from a 5-year contract like we currently have to a 6, because you'll see Walsworth's bid was a 2% increase for the first 2 years. And then the last 3 years is a 0% increase. So if we were going to do a 5-year contract, we might as well do a 6, because we're guaranteed, we're locking in that price for another year. So that is why we determined a 6-year versus currently we're on a 5-year contract. So we are recommending approval, and I'll take any questions you may have. Do you have any questions?
I just have one, and you may not even know it. Do the students ever get a chance to go to, I noticed it's in Missouri and it's only like 2 hours away. Do they ever get to go see how the yearbooks are published?
I don't know if they've specifically went on a publishing tour, but that is in the RFP. Is that available? And that would be on the journalism teacher to take them. But yes, they could, and that is part of the process. Do they have the ability for our kids to go see a production line?
Yeah, that's great. I would move approval.
Motion by Lauren.
Second.
Second by Christy. All in favor? Kristen? I didn't know. Sorry. Kristen?
That's fine.
7-0. Now we can approve science curriculum maps.
All right. This one is much shorter than the last month. And I apologize, and we did not get these ready. We were trying to finalize them right up till the very end, and we just had to call it. But these are our special education classes that are mirrored the classes that our general education take with some minor adaptions. So the committee for that, there are 2 special education teachers that worked really hard on this, and that's Olivia O'Donnell and Candace Granado at the high school. And of course, Shannon O'Connor led the way with that group as well. So tonight you're looking at biology, integrated science A and B. Those are 2 semester classes. And then the 3rd year would be environmental science. So just as they're listed, I don't know why this didn't slideshow for you. I'm sorry. Make that font a tad bit bigger. Biology is the freshman class. Then integrated science A and B would be the sophomore experience, and then the junior experience would be a year-long environmental science class. The units are all the same, with the exception of environmental science. Environmental science, our general ed kids take humans and the environment if they choose to take that. Some of them take astronomy or other classes. But we decided that due to simplicity of some staffing for special education, to go ahead and make that a year-long class for special education. So we didn't have to have some kids want to go do astronomy that 2nd semester. Some want to go do humans in the environment. Some want to go do humans anatomy and physiology. So we just simplified that to streamline the staffing part. So they have 3 additional units that are added to the environmental science that are not in the humans environment class. So all the other content is very similar.
The materials are just a tad bit different. So biology is very much mirrored. If they're going to do a lab, they're going to do the lab in the SPED classrooms. In integrated science A and B, where they're really focusing on that physical science and a little bit of chemistry and a little bit of physics, we were able to repurpose some of the FOSS kits. You remember how Mrs. Hummer was talking to you about Discovery Ed? There are some very purposeful FOSS kits that we already currently have in the district that will work really well as a complement to those other topics in the integrated science A and B. So those kids will actually get a lot more lab experience and hands-on science in these two particular classes because we're able to repurpose those FOSS kits. So Dr. O'Brien will work on piecing together a few of the extra things, but most of that is all district-owned and that we're just repurposing. So with that, I'll take any questions you have, but we recommend approval. Any questions? All right, we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Lauren,
Second.
second by Buck. All in favor? 7-0. We will move on to approve science curriculum property disposal. So it has come as a process that we learned that once we approve a curriculum, it's really good to identify the old curriculum and tell teachers they can let go of it out of their closets and the back rooms and the storage rooms. And so we have generated a list, and that's worked really well for us over the last 4 or 5 years, and so this is no different. These are science books that have been in a storage room that they could pull from and use from time to time. It doesn't mean these were sitting in classrooms and that this is what we were teaching with yesterday. It just means that they are asking for permission to get rid of them now. So with that being said, we are asking for permission to dispose of these outdated curriculum resources. Any questions? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Christie,
Second.
second by Sarah. All in favor? 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We'll move on to approve annual district paper order. Seven zero.
Seven.
It was 7. I was stuck on the last one. Okay, sorry about that, guys.
Paper.
Okay, approve parents as teachers unit request.
Oh, we're still on
Go back to
paper.
Paper.
Paper order.
Okay, this is a standard purchase each year. Mrs. Darding typically talks about it, but since she isn't here, I wanted to just let you know this is a standard order that we do for the next school year. Because it exceeds 20,000, it's on there, but it's just the 8.5 by 11-inch paper for the district. It gets us through most or all of the year next year, so we would recommend approval.
So moved.
Motion by Christie, second by Lauren. All in favor? 7-0. We'll move on to approve parents as teachers unit request.
Good evening. We are requesting to continue our contracted services with Keystone Parents as Teachers program for the 26-27 school year. Rate increases per unit and our program review that we have conducted led us to the recommendation of maintaining our current contract for 24 families for a total of $22,656. In collaboration with Parents as Teachers, though, we do have an understanding that if we were to increase our need, we would be able to add additional units in the coming school year as needed. That would come back for approval from you all. And then just a reminder, Parents as Teachers works for our entire district, and it is centered physical space out of Shawnee Heights Elementary School. So we recommend approval, but I can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Just a quick one. Remind me, do we provide the one full-time staff to cover this, or is that paid through Parents or through Keystone?
Our contract helps offset that salary, but
Okay.
they are through Keystone. And we now have a full-time, our person, and Andy O'Byrne is her name, and she's doing a phenomenal job. There has been some turnover in that position. So we have maintained steady, and she's coming back to us, so we're excited what next year might bring.
Fantastic.
I'd move approval.
Motion by Lauren,
Second.
second by Christie. All in favor? 7-0. Thank you. We'll move on to approve Canvas renewal. Ms. Bell?
Canvas is our learning management system that houses or gives the teachers the ability to house assignments, quizzes, practices for kids, and then kids are able to work through that kind of like an online textbook. They can read through the material, they can submit their homework digitally, they can get feedback right away. If it's a quiz, it will grade it for them. And then there is the ability for those scores to pass through to PowerSchool if the teacher sets it up that way. We also use that at the middle school and the high school. We also use Canvas for professional development. So all of our buildings have an account, and they house information, training materials, presentations in there, and teachers are the students basically. And so they can access learning materials in that manner as well. And so we are asking for approval of this contract for $29,361.80. I can answer any questions you may have.
Do we have concerns about Canvas after the hack?
They have worked really hard, and then all of their third parties temporarily shut down the links of all the loopholes, and so we feel really good about where we're at with that. But even if we had a little bit of a concern, this is a major implementation for our curriculum, and we couldn't turn it around fast enough. So what IT and I have talked about is that if we were to have any other breakdowns with this, that we would spend next school year basically doing kind of like an RFP process where we would look at any other vendor options and implement that. But to turn that around by August with the staff leaving would not be a good thing for our teachers. So we're recommending approval going forward.
Does Canvas have the same amount of student data in it as because we have PowerSchool, so
No.
there's far more of our student data that would be in PowerSchool than
Correct.
in Canvas.
Yeah.
Okay.
They just have the students' names and the login information to get there. And then that is passed back into, those scores are given to PowerSchool and not the other way around.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, we need a motion to approve.
So moved?
Motion by Christie, second by Sarah. All in favor? 7-0. We will move on to approve Read 180 renewal.
Okay, the Read 180 renewal is our tiered intervention system at the middle school. It's the middle tier. It's our tier 2. Students that have comprehension issues tend to be most likely enrolled in Read 180. We have 90 licenses, 45 for each grade level, 7th and 8th, and this is a 3-year license. We'll adjust it as needed if we need to when the 6th grade come up, but we'll worry about that then. But this is a program we've been using for probably 20 years, and we have a lot of success. Kids close a lot of gaps with our Read 180 program. They graduate out, they find a lot of success in that, and they take pride in that. And so we are asking for approval for this license, and the renewal cost of that is, for the 3 years total, is $40,324.50. It is digital, and then the kids get consumable workbooks for all 3 years.
Do we have questions?
I move approval.
Motion by Lauren, second by Kristen. All in favor? 7-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll move on to superintendent's report. Ms. Meggers.
First of all, I was just going to say a big thank you to our the Shawnee Heights Foundation. They hosted the foundation staff mixer this past week, and we always know we're coming up on the end of the school year, but it's really fun to see staff from all buildings come together, hang out. They have a good, it runs from 3 to 6, so they kind of stagger in as school dismisses, but there's food, they get to just sit and talk and have a great time. Lots of prizes. We get people that donate gift cards. So it was just a great event. We really appreciate what they do and what they dump back into our staff. So great event last week. Speaking of great events, there are a lot of celebrations going on. You were all at graduation. We also have 6th grade promotions that have been going on across the district, and tomorrow is 8th grade promotion. So lots of last end of the year events. And speaking of last events, tomorrow is the last day of school for K through 11. So our seniors are gone and graduated, but everybody else has one day, and then they will get a hit summer break. So we just wanted to say thank you to all staff and families for a great school year. And I know everybody's looking forward to summer break here coming up. So we just wanted to say thank you.
We'll move on to facility use discussion. Mr. Stiegel. You also have a flyer in front of you that says key fob procedure outline. This will be part of the discussion.
Yeah, as you read this, this is just a bare bones outline of the process that I brought forth. And if you have questions, fire away, or I'm just here to answer questions and advocate for this idea. I brought this idea forward because with the resources we have available, I believe this is the best path forward to make our facilities as secure as possible and to have smooth entry by our building users.
I think it's a great idea. My question is for these non-school groups, is the person getting the key fob being told that they can't prop the door open?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of documents that go along with this. This is a summary, but in in general regulations, there's a lot of requirements. You know, they can't break our equipment. They have to keep our facilities secure. They have to monitor their group while they're in the building. They have to be supervised by an adequate number of adults. You know, there's no tobacco, no vapes. They can't rent furniture. So there's a lot of stuff in the general regs of facility use that cover that kind of thing.
So no surprise to anybody, I'm still wildly uncomfortable with this. I'm not clear on how it increases any actual efficiencies. We're just shifting the burden to different staff members. Someone's going to have to be responsible for receiving those KBI background checks, verifying them, cataloging them. Someone's going to have to be responsible for programming the key fob. Somebody's going to have to be responsible for handing the key fob to the patron who wants to use the building. Somebody's going to have to be responsible for recovering those key fobs from the patron. All of that seems like, I mean, that's just some of the things that come to mind, which seems like a mountain of work to simply solve a problem that is, at least was presented to us as it's burdening the janitors to have to let people in and out of the buildings. And I don't want to say that the janitor's time is not valuable, because of course it is. But I think we're just shifting it to another. I'm tired of hearing myself too, guys, but I do think it's just shifting the burden. I think that it creates a false sense of security in our buildings, because I will use Tecumseh South Elementary as an example, having had practices and things like that at that facility. I know it's been common practice for a door to get propped open because of how people access the gym. And so if that's already in our current procedures and we're not doing anything to verify that, I don't know how this changes that. If we're not doing any additional like monitoring of security, if the door isn't going to alarm because it's propped open, or anything like that. The reality is we're creatures of convenience, and coaches are going to walk in, start setting up their practice, and kids are going to be expected to come through the propped door. So we're not solving that problem. And then I continue to have significant concern about just the extra layer of cost for some of our families. I want our facilities to be a place that those kids can go and develop whatever skill it is they want to do, whether that's, they want to go practice basketball, or they want to go run laps in the gym with their friends, or whatever it may be. I want them to be able to use our buildings. That's what they're here for. So yeah, I mean, I think those are my concerns. I think we're burdening a different group of staff members to take the burden off. We're just shifting the pie, if you will. We're creating a false sense of security by pretending that people aren't still going to prop open those doors. And I also have some concern about the cost related to the fobs, because obviously if they don't get returned, if you check one out to me and I don't return it, I presume there might be some caveat about me not being able to rent again until I bring it in to be programmed or return it or whatever the case may be. But the reality is those can evaporate and they're not free. So I understand the idea. I'm not ever opposed to our buildings being more secure, but this just doesn't feel like it does what we are hoping that it does.
Lauren?
Is this to be considered a policy proposal, or is just a written outline of what you presented to us 2 weeks ago?
This is just an outline of the procedure. This is a simplified summary of the procedure that we talked about at the last meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And I do know that there was some blowback about the background checks. I still think it would be an improvement without that. So even if we did this without background checks, we're still gaining ground, in my opinion.
Just to clarify, I don't object to the background check in the sense of knowing who's in our buildings and knowing that they're properly vetted. My bigger concern is passing that on to the patron who may be wanting to. I just want to make sure that that we have something in there that doesn't make our buildings inaccessible for the number of our families who are already struggling in other ways. I just want to make sure that we aren't creating a have and have not situation by adding in that layer. That's all I'm concerned with.
I would like to add a little bit to what Kristen's been saying, but I think there's a way to make this work on when you have like multiple uses. Like if someone's going to have 10 practices across a season, maybe it makes sense to get a key fob and pay for, maybe it's not a paid group that is coming in, but still, if you got 10 practices, the group could split the background checks and not be overly burdensome. But for the one-time use or the a couple-time use for certain things, I just don't see the need to have them go through this whole process again. I think it limits access for some families in our district, and so I'm not comfortable with it like this. But maybe we could save the janitors a lot of time if it's these practices where it's every week for 10 weeks or whatever. That might make sense. I just don't like for everybody just a blanket one.
What is the cost of a key fob to the district?
It's $5.
Okay. So, I guess I'd be okay issuing them one if we, had like a $10 deposit or something like that that gets returned to them once they return the key fob. I do have a similar concern with what Kristen said about, hey, you're a coach, you're going to be out there with your team, maybe kids are dropping kids off, and they're in there trying to coach the team, and they're not going to be trying to monitor that door. So I would have a concern that door would get propped open anyway, even with the key fob. The background check, well, I think it sounds like a good idea. You're still going to have parents of those families that are coming in and accessing those buildings without having any kind of background checks. I'm not 100% sure what we're gaining by having that background check on just that single person that has access to that building for 2 hours when entire families could also. So
Yeah, the thought process is just to have a responsible party for a group, and that party is responsible for, adhering to our standards, and if they're not doing that, then we have some accountability in there.
So just to kind of reiterate, so like an elementary gymnasium under our current policy is $20 per hour. So if I wanted to rent it on Sunday to do basket weaving, it's going to cost me under this proposal the $30 for a KBI background check, the $20 facility rental, and potentially a deposit for the key fob if we were to add that layer. Is that correct? Is that what I'm understanding?
Right.
Okay. So, and that's one time, I'm just coming in one time to make some baskets, or I'm coming in every week for 6 months. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be held to that same.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to clarify. Thank you.
I mean, I have the same concerns that have already been said, but my other concern is the fact that much of this should be a proposal to amend our use of school facilities by non-school groups policy KG, and that we shouldn't just be ad hocing some of these policies and procedures like this.
All right, do we need to add anything else? I'm making notes.
One of the things I believe we talked about the last time, and I was trying to pull up the policy to see, was having the balance paid when the reservation's made, so we weren't having to track, and that wasn't here, so I don't know if that's still part of the proposal, but if that is, just making sure.
Yeah, it's still part of it. Yeah, it's still part of it.
Can you repeat that, Sarah?
I think that Micah had shared that part of the proposed update was to have, if you were renting it for 8 slots, that you would pay for your 8 slots, so that we weren't having to maintain accounting and tracking and collecting on those additional slots. That whoever was renting it would pay for the slots they were renting at the time that they made their reservation.
Okay, so given Kristen's example, we would then be requesting that they pay, let's say those 8 slots are for an hour, so they're paying $8 or $20 an hour times 8 slots plus the $35 for their KBI background check and potentially $10 for a key fob. Am I understanding that correctly? So we're at what, a little over $200 to use our gym.
Which they're already paying if they're using, it's just a matter of the tracking. So right now, if I reserve it for Sunday, I could pay my $20, and then I don't pay for my other ones necessarily all up front. So I can I'm taking up space, correct, but I'm not paying for it currently unless I'm actually getting to that use date. So somebody's bookkeeping wise having to track that? Is that what we're trying to solve?
Yes, so in some instances, people will reserve it for, 20 times, and, they might cancel 5 or 10 of those, but they're grabbing the time and reserving it, and then if it's pay as you go, they may not.
They may not pay as they
may
go.
not pay for all 20. They might just pay for the 10 that they use.
Right. So if I'm understanding correctly, and I don't want to speak for you, part of this key fobbing policy is that key fob, when they make that reservation for 8 reservations, the key fob would be programmed for all 8. So we would want them to pay for all 8 upfront. And then it also alleviates the bookkeeping burden of going in and seeing week to week. But if they cancel one of those 8, we're not refunding that either.
Correct.
Okay.
And, let's say someone wanted to reserve it for 20 times, but they could only afford the first 7. They pay for 7. We put 7 on the books. And then if they want 7 more, they can pay for 7 more.
Sure.
I agree with Lauren that if we do something like this, I think we need to go into the policy KG and make sure it's all aligned.
Okay, I've got that in my notes too. All right, are we good? Okay, so we'll bring this back.
I will add, I did have a conversation with Sarah after our last meeting and had given her some suggestions on, like, if we're going to do one policy, we might as well look through all of the other pieces of our facility use stuff. And she said that she had already been discussing some items for changes for the general regulations. And I suggested, even at the last meeting publicly, that there were some things in there that likely should actually be in policy so that the board can back up the procedure, or, the staff who are implementing these things.
Erica, I know I said I didn't have anything else, but can you also get us data on like the number of facility rentals, and then how many of those fall outside of staff members? Because I know a lot of our staff members use the gyms for like their children's practices and things like that, but I'd like to know how many are just like outside patrons.
I have that if you want it.
Do you have it with you today? I didn't want to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay, I've got it. So I only have it for this semester, so starting in this year, 2026. And this does not include much of the high school because the high school is not completely on ML scheduling. There are some high school events on there, but we're probably missing some. So this semester, we've had 501 total facility uses. 203 of those were classified as number 1, which is a school or booster club activity. 170.
To what?
172 were classified as district staff non-school activity. And the third category had 123. And that is a district patron, someone who rents a facility and the majority of their group lives within district. And then we had 3 instances of a non-district patron.
So I don't expect you to have this, but the number I'd be really curious about is in that 123 patron number. I'd be curious to know how many unique patrons that is. Is this, or do you have it?
I have the audit in front of me, but I probably can't go through these like 13 pages. And
No,
count
you're
it
fine.
right up
I
here,
did,
but
like I said,
I'm
not my
happy to
intention
show
to
it
put you on
you.
the spot. I
Yeah.
think it would help our discussion as far as like how many people are actually being burdened by that. Because our staff, the school boosters, they're already going to use them and kind of be not exempted from the expectations of the use, but they're going to have access to our buildings already. So the patrons is what I'm trying to get at. Is that 40 people using it, 3 times, give or take, or is it something different?
I have this in a digital format. I'm happy to.
Yeah, no rush. I just to inform our discussions, and like I said, I wasn't intending to put you on the spot, so thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, if you can just get that to Mrs. Meggers, and she'll push that out to the rest of us. That'd be great. All right, thank you, I appreciate it. We're going to move on to Project Plus discussion. You also have a flyer in front of you, alternative learning options.
Earlier in the semester, let me give you a little background because I know we've got some new people. We have some alternate learning options that we are housed out at Forbes Field. And one of those is called Project Plus. And we have elementary through high school students in that. Greenbush, we've always paid Greenbush a fee. They staff it, they do the learning. We were notified earlier in the semester that they would be, they're moving the K-8 portion of that to another location. And we'll still stay with them, but they are not going to be able to serve the high school students. We also have another program out there called SHARP, and we have about 12 to 15 students in that. We have 8 high school Project Plus students, but 15 in SHARP, and that one is our own staff. We have just rented a space out there for a number of years. Our plan was to see, we talked with Forbes Field and asked if we could continue renting that space. They said, yes, not a problem. Mrs. Bell and Dr. O'Brien went out and really looked at that space, met with them, toured, identified what space we would need. And just recently we got that rental amount back. And so under where it says Forbes Field, that first category there, it's a little over $32,000 a year to rent for both of those programs. The other piece to that is that they could terminate that lease if somebody else is interested. They either 90 days, with 90 days notice, or at the end of the current semester, whichever is sooner. We also would be in charge of or responsible for mowing, snow removal, maintenance, internet. We currently deliver food out there, and then we would continue to have to transport. We would also have to hire staff. So that was a little more than we were thinking, and we also will probably need more than just 2 teachers and 2 paras. There wouldn't be any support staff out there. So we did some checking here. Just recently, we checked with Auburn Washburn. Their program is full. We've checked with Seaman. They would like to expand, but don't have the capability right at the moment. In talking to Auburn Washburn, they have 2 portable units that they are going to be finished with. They've had them on their property for a little while, and they've been using them. They will be finished with them here, I think it was mid to late June. They would be happy to donate them, but we would have some expense in moving them over here and hooking them up. We have looked at, out behind the high school, we've got a spot where we could, we've got concrete, we can connect, hook up utilities, we have restrooms out there. We'd have to hook up internet. Transportation would be a little simpler. Food service would be right there. We would also have access to administrators, SROs, nurses, all of our support staff would be right here. There are 2 separate units, each with 4 to 5 rooms, a pretty good-sized space in there. So we would propose that we would do Project Plus have one, and Sharp would have the other. And then we would still have to provide teachers. And the staff that are currently with the students at Sharp would just transfer back here. The other piece would be just getting our kids back on campus is a positive. And in the long run, that's probably a little bit cheaper this first year. By the time we move those and hook them up, it's kind of a wash. But what it would do is get them back on campus. It would buy us a little bit of time to, once we get that access road, maybe we are looking at something more permanent that we could add on. But we just wanted to throw that out and be able to answer questions. But that is our recommendation at this point. Would be to move forward with moving those students back here. We can leave them out there, but after really spending a lot of time looking into it, we feel like our best option is to bring our kids back on campus.
I agree. I want to see all of our kids on our own campus, and I think this is a way to get them back, and also a way to help us move forward in finding permanent means of keeping them here, meaning its own building at some point or whatever. But I know this has been a big topic with Ms. Monholland. I mean, it's something that's important to her to get those kids back here. So I like the idea.
Yeah, I have personally been out there to the facility, and it's not a great space for kids. Like, it's no windows, closed in the building, heavily secured, and it just didn't seem like a great learning environment. Not to say that those kids don't like that kind of seclusion to their learning experience, because that works for them, but it's not a great place for them right now.
I agree. I've been out there. I have a student there. It is not ideal. It is very institutional, and there aren't SROs there. The sheriff's there a lot. There's no nurse there. I mean, there's a lot of things that we should be providing, and we can do it best here. But I'm excited to see that we have an option, and I'm hoping it works out, especially with our construction going on around the high school. But I appreciate that Auburn Washburn is willing to donate these buildings. I think that we should make it a priority as a board after this bond to make sure we can continue to keep these students here.
My only concern was about the nature of why some of those students are not on our campus, and if that presents concerns, particularly if we're talking about putting those trailers behind the high school as things are currently arranged. It would seem that, like, if they drive themselves to school, I don't know if they would have any kind of parking privilege or anything like that, but if they drive themselves to school, they're going to need to at some point interact with the rest of our student body to get back there, or not. I mean, these are just things that are, kind of swirling for me. Obviously, in some cases, there's a very practical reason that kids just don't, thrive in our conventional learning environment. And so I'm not opposed to having an alternative space for them, but in cases where they are, maybe the student presents a behavioral situation or a safety consideration that is outside, that is the reason that they're outside of our current learning environments, I just am a little concerned about a rush to bring them back on campus and us being unprepared for that. So that would be my only feedback.
What? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask, does Auburn Washburn have their alternative programs on campus? Do we know?
It sits right in the middle of the high school and the middle school.
Okay. Does Seaman?
It's a building.
Right.
And Seaman is one of their old elementary schools.
Okay. So they're still on district property?
Yes.
Okay.
But are they then like as part of the rest of the population, or are they separated out into their own individual buildings and they operate independently? They have their lunches there, they have all of that stuff in a separate building. So would these students be having lunch in these trailers, or will they be going to the cafeterias?
We can have food service delivered right to them, which is what's happening now out at Forbes Field. There were other students from other districts out there with Greenbush, but because it fell within our boundaries, we actually did provide food out there to them.
Okay.
So we could do the same, it just would be actually a little bit more convenient.
So the question that I had before that actually was, have we gathered any input from the parents and students of those who would be impacted by this move, and what input have they given?
We have not talked to them first. We wanted to talk to you first. This has kind of developed here. We looked, Dr. O'Brien and Mike and I went and looked at these units at Auburn Washburn about a week ago. So maybe it's been a week and a half, 2 weeks. And wanted to explore that option, and we're getting pricing on things. So, no, we have not put that out to families yet.
Okay.
We just have
would-
let them know we'll have a program and continue it.
I would very much like to know what their thoughts are, because again, much like Kristen said, I think that there are some of these students who prefer not to be on campus and in the traditional learning setting. So I would very much like to have their input before we make any decisions.
When does a decision need to be made? Is this something we need to have done before the next semester?
Yeah.
Ideally?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, doesn't it affect next year?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We can continue at Forbes
I mean-
Field, we just would continue
That's
renting.
a lot.
It's,
I think the other
it's
thing,
what, 22 students? Can't you get feedback from 22 students
Oh, I'm
and
not
their
arguing
parents?
that. I just wanted to know if we needed it, say, like, how quickly we need to get that process moving.
I think I'd also be interested to know, I know in some, oh, sorry, I have my back to you. I would also be interested to know that, I know in some cases, just, you have students who do things like elope from places, and that's why they need to be in these situations. So obviously, we have existing SRO staff, but what burden does that shift from when, are we talking about needing another officer back there? Are we talking about, I mean, I would like to know more about, I know we're saying that we can utilize our existing things, but for example, the nurse, if they need medical attention of some kind, it's not probably feasible or practical that the nurse is going to run right out there with every bandage and apparatus she might need. So is she going to have a health room, some kind of mobile cart, or is there going to be a second person who can go out there? It just feels like this is maybe an oversimplification of what it really looks like to bring them on campus. And so I would just like us to think through those pieces, because certainly, yes, she can go and administer medicines and things like that, but in just thinking it through, it seems like we might need more people than we think we need.
I just wanted to remind you that these aren't the only two alternative programs that we have. So we also have this Center for Restorative Ed. And so our administration takes each kid and works with Dr. O'Brien and looks at what is needed for that kid. So a student that elopes frequently or needs to be in a separate location off-site would more likely be eligible for that CRE spot, which is housed off our property still. So it wouldn't be that all the programs are on our property, but we'd be a lot closer at that. So as students' needs arise, we would change the placement to fit the need of that student. We do have far fewer elopements at the high school level than we do in the elementary. I just wanted to make sure as you're talking about that, that you understand that our administration team and our counselors work really hard to make sure that we're trying to figure out the best need for each kid, and that's not a blanket practice. So I just wanted to end it. Okay. Thank you.
I have a question, it might be for Mrs. Bell. So can you give just more detail in general regarding what qualifications a student would have to go into the Project Plus program or to go into the SHARP program?
Yeah, I can speak.
I'm sorry to
Yeah,
put you on
I
the
can
spot.
speak to SHARP a little bit, and then some of the CRE, and then Dr. O'Brien really could speak to the Project Plus and CRE too. Sharp are students that they're easily distracted. They can't seem to stay on task, and just when they do, the bell rings, and then they've got to get up and move into a different learning environment, and that just isn't conducive to learning for them. It's better if they're sitting in one place, they get done with their task, then they can get up and move, and they can sit back down and keep working, and they also just don't have the distraction of 1,000 other people surrounding them at any given time. Those are kids that are usually credit deficient as well, and they need to have that more targeted intervention so that they can get their credits done so they can graduate. CRE is where they're not special education, right? Not necessarily, but those services include some social work services and other wraparound services. So kids that are going to CRE not only need some of that, but they need some counseling, or they need some other supports that those services can provide. And then Dr. O'Brien can talk about Project Plus.
Project Plus is for our special education students only. They all have IEPs. They have different needs. So they need an alternative learning environment with a lot of flexibility, where they can work at their own pace. The teacher-student ratio is lower. And we then like to move them back into a more traditional space as things improve for them. And so sometimes it's nice for them to be close to campus so that we can do some of that and help them be successful. For as long as I've been here and much longer, we've contracted with Greenbush and Project Plus and had that program out there. The other districts in the area do have their own programs, some on site at their campuses, and some have their own campuses, but they all do have their own programs at this point. So the space that we were looking at Forbes in the current Project Plus building is for a very small part of that building. It is not the entire building. It's a very small part of that building. And so I think it's an option that is maybe not as cost effective as we would like it to be, and doesn't really give us what we'd like out of that space. It doesn't have the rooms we need and the sectioned off spaces that we need, like these portable buildings have. So they're more a couple large rooms. So.
Thank you. I was just getting a little confused with some of if it was like students that were unsafe to have on campus, so I was a little confused about that. So thank you.
I think one thing to also remember, they can cut us off in 90 days or at the end of a semester. This is a group of kids that needs a little more stability, and if we were having to move them at semester or within a 90-day thing, that's not good. So the idea here was still a temporary fix, but it's much more stable than the possibility of having to go out there and then having them find a renter, and then we're out and having to do something really quick, and something that would be even much more difficult at that point. So just make sure you're remembering that piece of it. That's a critical one as we were talking about this.
I think my only other comment would be that as a patron who was not yet a board member when things like our bond planning was going on and that kind of thing, this feels like the type of reason that a strategic plan would have been really helpful before our bond proposal. Because if our long-term goal is to do things like build an on-site, more permanent building as opposed to having students in temporary trailers, we kind of have missed our window. We kind of missed the boat on that. So I know that's no one's direct fault. I just want to acknowledge that that's maybe a place where we could have done a better job as a district of planning ahead for transitioning into something like this if that was a priority for us. And I know that this is being kind of pushed upon us by a change in the offering outside of our control, but you know, Erica, to your point, if it's something that we're excited about as a district and wanting to do, I would have loved to have seen it be a priority and an objective in that bond proposal that we just asked the community for.
All right. Any other additions? Okay, and then we'll see that again soon, probably. Next is HVAC plumbing discussion.
So a lot of the decisions or proposals that I make are based on the budget. You know, money doesn't grow on trees, it's a limited resource, so I really try to have to squeeze the juice out of every dollar that we have. Pretty shortly after I got here, I started looking at the McElroy's contract. I believe that you guys have this essentially 4-page document in front of you. Do you guys have that? So if you want to look that over, feel free. Page 1 basically describes what the contract is, what we get from it, what it does not cover. There's a little bullet points down here at the bottom of, on top of that contract, what we've paid for their labor. It's a labor contract, it's a service contract. The bid that I got for the contract for 26-27 is listed there for $173,000. So I sent this proposal to Ms. Megers, and my proposal was to not renew the McElroy's contract and to hire our own HVAC techs. This is, in my opinion, totally achievable. I believe that McElroy's charges us around $110 an hour for a service call. I believe that we can hire a certified tech for around $30 an hour. That's right within the realm of possible, and I've done a ton of research on this. I've looked at how much HVAC companies pay their employees, how much McElroy's pays their employees, and I think that the district can save a lot of money. I will say this, McElroy's is very good. They do great work. I don't have any complaints about McElroy's work. I just look at the size of the contract and see a place where we can potentially save a lot of money. And then the second part of this, I would also like to hire a plumber. We do a lot of preventative maintenance over the summer, and last year our numbers were, I did an audit back in October for both of these, so the audit period is like October from October. But you can see the amount that we spend on plumbing was $78,000. So every invoice that we got from either McElroy's or from Ace Plumbing's, I reviewed it and I basically made a determination of, can we do this on our own? Is this work simple enough for us to hire a plumber and do this work? Every invoice that we got, we could have done it if we had the manpower. So I would also like to hire a plumber. I think there's money to be saved there as well, a decent amount of money. And what this really gives us is not only are we covering our service calls when we have an HVAC need or when we have a plumbing need, but when those employees are not working on these jobs, we get them the rest of the year. You know, Ace probably had a guy in our building for 2, maybe 3 months out of the year. So not only could we do that cheaper, but we get that employee for the additional 8, 9, potentially 10 months. Same thing with HVAC. The contract that we have, they give us 3 days a week. You know, we could do it cheaper, and we get them for 5 days a week. Now, there'll be a learning curve. We're still going to have service calls. There's going to be complex issues where we need more than one guy to do it. But we could still call McElroy's. You know, they're still willing to provide us service for a regular service call. We don't need to be entwined in a service agreement to call them, or any other company for that matter. I believe, as I've looked at our books and sort of figured out the lay of the land, my perception is that our district spends a lot of money to vendors and companies to hire out work, where I think if we had the personnel to do it, we can do it quite a bit cheaper. Just for reference, on those last 2 pages, I kind of surveyed similar districts, similar in size, in our geographical area, and we are doing it differently than everyone else. And I think we can do it better, and I think we can save money in the long run, potentially a significant amount of savings, but it's going to require more bodies.
Does anyone have questions?
I appreciate the analysis of bringing an educated recommendation to us, so it's very thoughtful, so thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, I like this proposal. I think it's a good idea to look at these type of things, even if not every one of them's going to make sense. This one could potentially, do you feel, I mean, I've always been told that these contracts are because now we're first in line because we're with McElroy's. We're first in line to get our stuff fixed. Is that, are we fearful that if something major happens where our one guy can't handle this situation that?
You know, McElroy's is a great company. They really are. They do good work, and they prioritize us. But they prioritize us for a reason, and this is the reason. And if we called them for a service call, they're still going to respond, or another company would respond. I don't anticipate having a hard time getting someone beyond our own employee out there if needed in a timely manner. I just don't foresee that being a huge issue. Could it happen where we have a delay? Sure. What we do now, if we have parts that we need to order to save money, we've started ordering those parts ourselves. So in the past, you know, McElroy's would provide the part for us, and a lot of this is what I'm being told because I've not even been here a full year. But in the past, you know, there's always markup, sometimes significant markup. So when we get the part number and we order it ourselves, there's times it's like 30% the cost of what it would be through a big, big service provider like McElroy's. But there's outlets out there where we can do things cheaper. And as I look at my staff, if we have more bodies, we can do a lot more. And it's not just about plumbing and HVAC, but it's about other projects that we can touch. You know, for instance, last summer, we spent $40,000 putting in soundboards in the choir room in the high school. We completely could have done that in-house on our own if we just had a couple guys and a little bit of, you know, research in ordering those soundboards. Projects like that can be done in-house, and we're gonna save money, but we need that force multiplier of a little bit more manpower so that we can have the bodies to do the work. For instance, like I was talking to Greg Weekland, who's our maintenance coordinator, director, and I was talking about what will we need if potentially we do this, and he said, we have all the plumbing tools to do every job for all these invoices. We just don't have a person to assign to it. So when these jobs are getting assigned or called out to ACE, it's simply because our guys don't have the time to address the issue. And if we can get that force multiplier of a couple bodies, I anticipate that it will help us beyond just plumbing and HVAC, because we don't have a plumbing call every day. And while we don't have that, that guy could be doing other things.
And I would just add to what I noted in the review of, you know, we're paying $20,000 for an HVAC system at one of the or one of the schools there that potentially, if it's just a small unit, like one person or, you know, one person could install that and save half that price or more. I just see the potential there too.
So I know with some service contracts, you get a discount, which it sounds like maybe we don't get a discount on parts or materials. And I was curious if we've gotten discounts on some of the other units we've purchased through McElroy's because of our contract, that if we should just be aware of additional value that we would be trading.
So I don't know if I definitively know enough information, and I don't want to speak for how McElroy's favors us. because I truly don't know the answer to that. Like I said, I highly respect McElroy's. I have a ton of respect for them and their work. I have nothing but praise for them. But in this service contract, there's no discount listed. Now, we also have we had a secondary smaller service contract for the cooling tower. That was about $1,800. And in that one, it did give us a 10% discount for service related to the cooling tower, but there's not that discount listed in this contract.
I know that about, well, what year is it? 2026. So I think it was around COVID or shortly after COVID. We were having McElroy's come out here so often that I don't think it was you, Hirsch. I think it was Hallisey that brought us this contract because McElroy's was coming out here so frequently that it was costing us a fortune. And so they brought us a contract, a service contract. And I actually think it started at 2 days and we moved it to 3 days, if memory serves me correctly, but I wouldn't 100% bet on it. I would love to go pull previous year's minutes to see what we were paying for McElroy's before we entered into the service agreement, because I do remember it coming with a considerable discount in terms of service fees and having them come out here. My biggest piece and why I've always been supportive of this is that McElroy's is a union shop. They are highly trained. I have a lot of heartburn over trading out McElroy's union shop for somebody who will be newly trained and certified to work on equipment that we are spending a lot of money investing our patrons' tax dollars into equipping our buildings. And the people who are installing them, I think, should also be the ones helping maintain them, as they have been doing for many, many years, and we have a consistent rapport for them. As if we are going to continue considering this proposal, I would like to know, like, what is the cost of the one additional work truck? And then what is the recurring annual cost for maintenance of that? And is that really a cost savings over having McElroy's that has their own fleet? And they then have the burden of maintaining those items. So I'm not willing to trade in a union shop at this point.
And I will add, I would anticipate that in this price range, we can hire a certified journeyman.
Yeah.
McElroy's journeymans, from my research, and I confirmed that with another guy who did the same research, their journeymen start at $29 an hour and some change. So we're right in there to get a certified guy. But you're right. If we hire someone, it doesn't come with the backing of that big company. But as you look at the cost savings, it's significant. And there would be nothing to, we know that we might run into complex things where we're going to have to call in the cavalry. That could still happen and probably likely will. The other thing to think about is with the bond, we're getting a lot of new RTUs, new rooftop units, and hopefully they won't require as much. I feel like I've looked at this from every angle, and I mean, it's the district's money. So if we keep using McElroy's, things are going to stay the same. I'm just looking for efficiencies, and I think there's room for big improvements with efficiencies here.
I have a question. On the 3 days a week, did we have specific days of the week that we could use them? Or they literally sent someone out 3 days a week and we could use them for whatever we wanted?
They come, I believe it's like Monday, Wednesday, Friday every week. So it's like a scheduled day. They don't respond to us based on responses or based on our calls. But for instance, things do happen during those 2 days when they're not there. And you can see at the bottom of page 1, we pay them extra for those days. So if we have an emergency on a Tuesday and they're not there on a Tuesday, they're still billing us service calls for that. So we could always still call any company for a service call. And quite frankly, there's lots of good companies out there. McElroy's is not the only good company out there. And, we can shop around and try to get a better deal.
Does the current McElroy's contract cover both the HVAC systems and plumbing, or is the
No,
plumbing?
just HVAC. The
Okay.
plumbing I put on there because plumbing is also an issue.
Sure.
And it's somewhere where I really think that we can save money.
Sure.
I've just lumped them in together.
No, I just wanted to make sure, that's how I was reading it, but I wanted to make sure, because essentially then, by your proposal, we're getting sort of a two for price of one situation, a plumber and an HVAC, and we're still beneath the McElroy's contract.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
potentially, if you add it up in this year audit that I did, you're looking at about $250,000 versus, again, I can't look into the future and tell you exactly what it will cost us, but I think the savings are lucrative enough where we should try it.
And to your point, when you are talking about the, plumber's not going to have a project every single day, going to be able to do other things, do we think that we are going to be able to find that candidate who's willing to be sort of a general handyman and
Oh, yeah.
plumber? Okay.
No problem.
And we do have the vehicle if we do the HVAC.
We do.
It's only the plumbing that would require a vehicle.
Correct. We just need another truck. So I think if we bought a new truck, we could probably get a scaled down one, 50 grand. But as we bring on more trucks, Dwayne normally phases them out. There would be nothing to prevent us from just holding on to one of the older ones and assigning it to a guy. And when I was talking to Greg, I don't think the truck would be an issue except in the summertime when we're moving all over the place. So it would really help us out in the summertime, the extra truck.
Okay. Any additional?
Sorry, let me just add one more thing. If we try this and it doesn't work out, McElroy's will be very happy to give us another service contract. We could always go back if it doesn't work out as anticipated.
Okay. All right, we'll move on. Thank you. We'll move on to questions and concerns from Board of Education members. Anybody?
I had a question on, I know Keisha passed flag, I think it was a girl's sport, a flag football, in the, approved that as, I think as a fall sport, or was that, or spring, I can't remember. But has there been any discussions as a district around that and offering that up as an opportunity?
We are aware, but have not talked about adding it immediately. I think with the new AD next year, that would probably be a great time to have that conversation, but yeah.
So it won't be something in this next school year? Okay.
Not yet. I mean, we can have that discussion with him as soon as he's on. With the transition, we just hadn't pursued that yet, but we certainly can.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we're going to take a recess, a 9-minute recess for a break. We're going to come back at 9:30, and then we're going to go into executive session. So I move that we go into executive session to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to the exception for non-elected personnel under coma. We will return to regular session at 9:50. I need a second.
Second.
Motion by Erica, second by Sarah. All in favor? 7-0. session for 10 minutes. Suppose I need to read the reasons why. I move that we go into executive session to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to the exception for non-elected personnel under coma. We will return to regular session at 10:30. 10:30, 10 minutes. Motion by Christie. Second by Rocky. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0.